You're listening to a Platforms podcast, your source for cutting-edge, relevant Torah. Enjoy.
As always, I do feel the need to express my appreciation, just on a personal level, because this is very meaningful to me, and as you know, I'm all about me. So, thank you. So we're going to talk. I wasn't joking. So we're going to talk about Rosh Hashana, and what we're going to attempt to do is this chair going to break when I'm sitting in it? Because that would be really funny if that happened. It would be amazing. Okay, yeah. Well, no one who heard it would. If there's a crash and you're listening, that's what it was. I want to deal with the question that has been whooping me for forever. I mean, and this is a question that all of you have had. You've all wondered this, unless you refuse to think. If you absolutely refuse, if you suspend all belief, then perhaps you haven't had this question. But you guys are here. You're not in a different place, so you've probably thought about this question before. So there's a Mishnah in Rosh Hashana. Remember, coming up in Rosh Hashana is probably a good idea to talk about that. The Mishnah in Rosh Hashana says that there are 4 Rosh Hashanas, which the first time you read that when you're in, 7th, 8th grade or something, you're like, by definition, no, how can you have 4 Rosh Hashanas? It doesn't make any sense. But then you get a little bit older and you realize that, well, there's a fiscal year and that could be like April 15th and there can be a school year on September 1st and there can be an NFL season on, October. Like, okay, there can be different Rosh Hashanas. All right, I'm down with that. That makes sense. So the Mishnah says there's a Rosh Hashanah for Ma'aser Haman, there's a Rosh Hashanah for Shtaros, and there's a Rosh Hashanah for Shanim. And the one that we're going to deal with, obviously, is the one that's the Rosh Hashanah for Shanim. So the Gemara says, Ve'echad b'tishrei Rosh Hashanah l'shanim. Actually, that's not a direct quote. I should probably do it properly. The Mishnah actually says, Ve'echad b'tishrei Rosh Hashanah l'shanim u'l'shmitin u'l'yovlos l'netia u'l'yirakos. So the Gemara says, L'may helvasa. Like, what does that mean? That it's Rosh Hashanah for Shanim, for years. What does that mean? So the first time, again, that you read this, you're like, oh, well, it means the calendar year, right? It means January 1st. But that's stupid, because January 1st doesn't mean anything. January 1st is an arbitrary date that somebody pulled out of his ear. You understand? The calendar is a circle. There's no beginning or end to a circle. So if you tell me that there's an afkamina, as in for the IRS April 15th and for school September 1st, etc., then I understand why there would be something called a Rosh Hashana. It's a Rosh Hashana that's practical and it has an afkamina. But why would you just be like, oh, January? That's crazy. So that's what the Gemara is asking. The Gemara's like, what do you mean it's a Rosh Hashana for Shanim? It's meaningless. So, thank God for Rapapa. I'm a Rapapa Shtaros. It's talking about Shtaros. Oh, wonderful. Why? Well, because it turns out that you can post-date a contract, but you cannot predate a contract. Now, I don't want to get too deeply into this, but it's very, very intuitive, because if I want to lend you $1 million and I say, listen, man, we're gonna write that the loan is only chal 5 months from now. I want to give you a little bit of an extra time to, get on your feet so you can pay it back. That's fine. But you can't predate a contract, because if you predate a loan of $1 million, well, then that would supplant any lekuchos who should have had access to that money as prior mortgages before that, right? So you can't predate a contract, but you can post-date it, and therefore there has to be a Rosh Hashanah for contracts. Now you might think intuitively, but I don't understand. Why don't you just write the date on the contract? It's March 7th, 2004. And the answer is because you think that there's such a thing called March 7th, 2004. But that's because you've been raped in the mind by the Christian church, which has told you that it's the year 2019. Really? Really? It's the year 2019. The world is 2,000 years old. That's crazy. And yet, it's amazing, because everybody thinks like this. You think about how the default positions of people are so nuts, but it doesn't matter. The point is, before you had the church, which said that this is the day, no matter where you are, you actually had to have, days. You had to have dates. So what did you do? You went with the king. So it's 4th year of the reign of Chaim Yankel. And that's how you knew what year it was, and it worked quite well that way forever. Until Jesus came and consolidated everything. So, that's that. The problem, of course, Gemara's like, excuse me, you said Be'echad B'Nisan was Rosh Hashanah L'Malachim. You already said that in the Mishnah. And Ve'amrin L'May Hilchasav Amrechista L'Shtaros. You already said contracts, and you said that one is in July, not April. You can't have it both ways. And we're like, oh, no, Lokasha, Kan L'Malchi Yisrael, Kan L'Malchi Umas Olam. Obviously, Jewish kings need to count from a separate date than non-Jewish kings. Because we're Jews. And it's not enough that we wrap leather boxes and wear strange fringes and don't drink anybody's wine and wear kapelachs on the head. We also have to have a different calendar for our contracts because it's not like we ever do business with Gentiles. So in order to further confuse all of the legal ramifications of doing business with non-Jews, we're also going to have a separate dating system for some bizarre reason. But apparently it's very important, so important that we're declaring it a Rosh Hashana and putting it in the Mishnah. Okay, fine. So that's the first answer of the Gemara as to what the Mishnah means when it says that Be'echad B'Tisrei is Rosh Hashanah L'Shanim. Okay. So then the Gemara says, well, alternatively, it could be, like Rav Zera said, L'Tkufa. When the Mishnah says that it's Rosh Hashanah L'Shanim, it really means that it's Rosh Hashanah for seasons, because we know there are 4 seasons, and, one of them has to come first. So we're going to declare the Tekufas Tishrei as the first one of the seasons, which again begs the question, it's a circle. So, which season comes first? I don't know. I say the egg. Do you want the chicken? It's one of those questions, but okay. Gemara says that. And it's Rabbi Eliezer, because Rabbi Eliezer said, B'tishrei never ha'olam, which is, of course, also a very difficult thing to understand. Yeah? B'tishrei never ha'olam. What olam are you referring to? Which olam would that be? You mean Earth? You mean our particular star? Like, what do you mean that the world was created in Tishrei? The world is many, many billions of years old. You know that, right? So, what time was it created? Difficult to understand what he means by that, but whatever he means. So that is another possibility. That's the third possibility in the Mishnah as to what the Mishnah means when it says it's Rosh Hashanah L'Shanim. And now we come to my personal favorite, Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak Amar L'Din. No, it's Rosh Hashanah for Din. Cool. Forgot all about that one. That's the fourth one. Dichsiv, because it says, Mereishis Hashana v'ad Akra Shana. Right, he's talking about the pasuk in Akev that says, Eretz Asher Eini Hashem Lokach Tlim Ba Mereishis Hashana v'ad Akra Shana, and that, we're not going to go into this, but that, the Gemara understands that to constitute Din. Okay, so it's Rosh Hashanah L'Din. And the Gemara asks a fascinating question. I'm sorry that I have to do this, but there's no way to do this other than just to do it. The Gemara's like, Mimai de Tishrehu. It says in the pasuk that Hashem does Din from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. You know what the pasuk didn't say? When that is. The pasuk never said that. The pasuk just said, beginning of the year to the end of the year. Did not give you any indication whatsoever as when that year might be beginning and ending. It just says, I do it. So it was like, how do you know that means Tishrei? It's a pretty good question. Thank God we have an answer. Dichsiv, because it says, Tiku b'chodesh shofar b'kesel yom chagenu. Blow a shofar in the month, in the exact date, on the day of our holiday. Ezeu chag shachodesh miskasebo. What holiday is the month covered in? Haviyom is the Rosh Hashanah. That's got to be Rosh Hashanah. Why? Because most of our holidays fall out in the middle of the month, which is a full moon. But it turns out we have one biblical holiday that begins in the beginning of the month. In the beginning of the month, there's no moon. The moon is hidden. And therefore, obviously, David HaMelech in Tehillim is referring to Rosh Hashanah. And the next pasuk is, Uksiv ki chok Yisrael hu mishpat Elohei Yaakov. So God is obviously doing Din, and it's Rosh Hashanah, and that's how you know that that's what the pasuk meant in Akev when it said that God does Din in the beginning of the year. So how do you know the Rosh Hashanah is Yom HaDin? Because King David wrote a poem 1,000 years after the Torah was given, and in chapter 81, he says, blow a shofar. I mean, I gotta read this to you, man, in the English, because it's so good. Have you ever read this kapitel? Your life is not complete. You have to read this. I'm gonna read this for you. You're gonna hate it. You're gonna hate it. I'm gonna read it for you. Lam natseach al hagitit le'asaf. You know what the gitit is? Al hagitit. That's his instrument. It's like calling it the Colombian, because it was like a Colombian guitar. It calls it the Colombian. Lam natseach al hagitit. Harninu le'elohim uzeinu. Right? Sing joyously to Hashem, to the God of our strength. I don't know which God that is, but apparently it's the God of our strength. Hariu little hey Yaakov. Su'uzim wrote, nu tov, kinor na'imim navel, right? He was like, he was talking before Rabbinic Judaism because they used to do this on Rosh Hashana. Right? They were like rocking out. No, but you have to like close your eyes and actually get into what he's saying because it's really awesome. And that's what it's supposed to be, right? People don't know about Shabbos and that ruined everything. But anyway. Tiku b'chodesh shofar. Blow the shofar at the moon's renewal. Ba'kesel yom chagenu. At the time appointed for our festive day. Because it's a decree for Israel, judgment day for the God of Jacob. He appointed it as a testimony for Joseph when he went out over the land of Egypt, when I heard a language unknown to me. I removed his shoulder from burden. His hands passed from the kettle. In distress you called out and I released you. I answered you when you called privately with a thunderous reply. I tested you at the waters of strife, Selah. Listen, my people, and I will attest to you. Israel, you should listen to me. I don't want to go on. Cause it's brutal. You're really like, what the heck is he talking about? What is he saying? Like, what does any of this mean? I mean, it's very pretty. It's very pretty. What does it mean? Whatever it means, and hopefully we'll get there today. The Torah accidentally forgot to tell you that Rosh Hashanah is Yom Hadin. Oops. Doesn't mention it anywhere. Nowhere. So I have a small question for you. How does David HaMelech know? Who told him? What do you mean? Come on. How does David HaMelech know that Rosh Hashanah is in Tishrei? Who told him? Furthermore, you listen to the drasha. The drasha is hilarious. You'll forgive me for saying so. It's hilarious. Tiku b'chodesh shofar ba'keseh liyom chagenu. How do you know that it doesn't mean you should blow a shofar on Rosh Chodesh? Because he says ba'keseh liyom chagenu. Ba'keseh does not mean in the covering. Ba'keseh means with precision. As it says in Mishlei, liyom hakes. Liyom hakise, liyom hakeseh. Means precision, the appointed day. Yeah, but see, keseh is also a lashon of kisoi. So David HaMelech is giving you a double meaning to tell you that we're talking about the time when the month is hidden. I mean, he could have said that. He could have just said what you're saying he said. But he didn't say really what you're saying he said. He said something else, and you're kind of, trying to push it really hard so that it works for you. I mean, that's how you know Rosh Hashanah is Yom Hadin. How satisfied are you? It's the fourth answer of the Gemara as to what it means that Tishrei is a Rosh Hashanah L'Shanim. The fourth. And after the fourth answer is dropped, and you actually read the pasuk where the Gemara derives it from, like, I don't see that. And then what are you talking about, Yosef? Yeah, because Yosef left prison on Rosh Hashanah! Oh, which is true, right? Oh, right, that's why. Maybe that's why he made it into the paragraph. It's just bad, man. It's just bad. Okay, well, it gets worse. So the Gemara says in Sanhedrin, Gemara says, Tana Rabbanan, Ein ma'aber nes Hashana ela biyom. We do not declare a leap year at night. It has to be during the day. V'imivrua balayla ein u'beres. And if you happen to do it, if you convene the bezdin and they were ma'aber it at night, it doesn't work. Ve'ein mekatchen es hachodesh ela biyom. And similarly by Kiddush HaChodesh, you can't sanctify the month at night. It has to be during the day. V'im kitshua balayla ein mekudesh. Okay. Amre Baba, my kra. See, it's funny how they go. Just structurally, when the Gemara says my kra, it's funny how it makes a statement and then it says my kra. The my kra should really come before the statement, but it wants to introduce it in a way that you'll understand. So it tells you the concept, and then it says where you get the concept from. That's what my kra means. My kra means what is this pasuk? Like what's pasuk saying? So Amar Rabbi, my kra tiku b'chodesh shofar b'kesel yom chagenu. What is the pasuk saying when David HaMelech says, blow a shofar at the month when the holiday is hidden? Well, Ezeu Chag She'achodesh Miskasabo, Havi Yomer is a Rosh Hashanah. Obviously, it's got to be Rosh Hashanah, again, because of the date thing. Uksiv Ki Chok L'Yisrael Hum Mishpat L'Yakov, right? Well, Ma Mishpat Biyom, Av Kiddush HaChodesh Biyom, baby, because we know that you can't do Mishpat at night. That doesn't work. Can't do Mishpat at night. So since it says that God is judging, and judging can't be at night, then it must be, and it's talking about the Chodesh, so it must be that you can't be Mekadosh the Chodesh at night. Okay. That's good. That's a good way of telling you that. That's the best way to tell you the limitations on Kiddush HaChodesh, is to shtup it into that pasuk talking about something else. That's a good job. Not done. So this din thing turns out to be a big joke. Gemara says on Yud Zayin Beis in Rosh Hashana, when the pasuk says Eini Hashem Lokecha Ba, what's Ba? Well, Kosh Baruch Hu is looking at Eretz Yisrael, itim latova, itim l'ra. Sometimes he's looking at it for good, and sometimes he's looking at it for bad. What do you mean? Well, Ketzad. Let's say that Yisrael are terrible on Rosh Hashana. So obviously, Akash Baruch Hu gives them very, very little rain. Well, L'sof chazru b'hen. And then they became good after Rosh Hashanah. You know, a good sukkah can really do that for you. And they became good. Well, L'hosif aleini efshar shekvar nigzura gezera. God can't give them more rain because he already pushed the little rain button. He can't push the other button. So what's he going to do? Oh no. Ela Kosh Baruch Hu moridim bizmanan al haaretz hasricha lahen hakol lefi haaretz. Kosh Baruch Hu makes sure that the rain falls. There's only 2 inches of rain, but it's going to fall precisely in drip irrigation. It's going to fall exactly where you need it, and it's going to be fine. Okay. Itim l'ra. And the flip side is also true. Ketzad. Harishah Yisrael tzadikim gemurim Rosh Hashanah. Jews were tzadikim gemurim, and so obviously what does he do? Upasko len gesham merubin. He's going to give him a lot of rain. You're going to have 100 inches of rain. L'sof chazru b'hen. They had a bad sukkahs. L'fachos let mehen yefshar. Can't take it away. Shekvar nigzor gezerah. Again, the button's already been pushed. So what does God do? Elakash baruch hu maridin shlo bezman al arshin etzrichlan. Don't worry. God will just make the rain fall in all the places you don't need it. It'll fall in like the swampland. Right? Do you understand what the problem with that is? It doesn't matter what din you got on Rosh Hashanah. If you got a crappy din and you're good later, don't worry. 2 inches of rain is going to be perfect. And if you got a great din and you become a turd muffin later, then God will just turn off the faucet because it's going to rain in your bilge pump instead of on your garden. So who cares? It doesn't matter. It's a farce. The whole thing's a joke. This has been bothering me for a long time. Okay, so let's try a thought experiment. When the Gemara says Eizeu Chag Sha'chodesh Miskasebo Haviyom is a Rosh Hashanah, the reason that the Gemara is darshaning it like that is because it didn't make sense. If David HaMelech was trying to say, again, you understand the word Kesa obviously is a double meaning. Well, there's no reason for David HaMelech to say on the exact day of the holiday. He could have just said Biyom Chagenu. So when he says Bakesa Liyom Chagenu, obviously he's leaning on the word Bakesa. That's why the Gemara darshans the word Bakesa, because it doesn't belong there at all. Okay. So it must be he's talking about the Kisui. Well, either you can say, again, the way that I understood it until very recently, that he's telling a poem about Rosh Hashanah, or you can say that the operative and essential property of Rosh Hashanah is the fact that it is Bakesa. You understand the difference? He's saying, he is telling you about the properties of Rosh Hashanah, and when he describes Rosh Hashanah, he describes it as Bakesa. It's not a description of when it happens to fall out on a calendar. It's an articulation of the principles of Rosh Hashanah. That's what he's saying, and that's why the Gemara is darshaning what it's darshaning. So, if you look at Rosh Hashanah from a Torah perspective, you're going to find a few curious things. First of all, it's not the beginning of the year, right? You notice that because you open up Parshas Emor and it says Uvachodesh hashvi'i be'echad lachodesh yelachem shabbason zichron teruah mikra kodesh. And last time, I'm not so good with Hebrew. Maybe you can help me. I'm pretty sure Shvi'i means 7th, doesn't it? B'chodesh HaShvi'i. It's not the first month. It's the 7th month. So the fact that you call it Rosh Hashanah is also funny. It's not just funny that you think it's a Yom Adin and the Torah forgot to mention it, but it's also in the wrong month. You're off by 6. Well, that's one curiosity. Another curiosity might be, what happened on Rosh Hashanah? Riddle me this. You have 5 Moadim in the Torah, not counting Shabbos, because Moadim starts with Shabbos, but let's leave that out for a moment. You have, in the following order, Pesach, Shavuos, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot. That's the order. Who among us does not belong? Pesach, you were freed from Egypt. Shavuos, God gave you a Torah. Sukkot, God put you in booths. Yom Kippur, God forgave you. What happened on Rosh Hashanah? Nothing. Nothing happened on Rosh Hashanah. Nothing has ever happened on Rosh Hashanah. What happened on Rosh Hashanah? Don't know. And what do we do on Rosh Hashanah? Do we sit in a booth or eat a cracker? No. You blow a horn. Blow the horn. Why? I don't know. Doesn't say. This is like unbelievable. You'd think. God gives you a book. He wants you to understand it. He tells you everything you need to know. And he doesn't tell you a darn thing. It's like, Ayil Shel Yitzchak. So nice, but like God forgot to write it. It's very disturbing. It's very disturbing. Unless, of course, I say, of course, this was not obvious to me until it was. It's like when you see it, you're like, duh, it's been there the whole time. Obviously, the difference between Rosh Hashanah and the other holidays, that the other holidays have, in some way, a function that had to do with something that happened to you, and Rosh Hashanah does not. Well, then what does Rosh Hashanah have to do with? If it doesn't have to do with anything that happens to you, then what does it have to do with? It has to be just a reality of the cosmos. It has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with you. At all. Nothing happened to you. Nothing. It's a reality of the world. It's just how it works. Rosh Hashanah is physics. What does that mean? What would that look like? So I was thinking like this. It's funny, because, and I've said this idea before, but you can never say it enough. I think that most people feel as though they travel, they have, 90 years in the theme park. So you live in the theme park. I mean, Disney's like Disney. Miami is a really good place in the theme park. Like Lebanon is a bad place in the theme park. But the point is you're in the theme park. And God gives you, we should all be zeicha, gives you 90 years to run around the theme park. And there's some places that are better and some rides that are less good and some lines are long and sometimes you stand around people that you don't like. And you have 90 years to be in the theme park. And that's how people look at their lives. Now, what is time to most people? Time to most people, I believe, I could be totally wrong in projecting, but I don't think so because I've met many people. I know lots of people. Wherever I go, there are people. Here's what I think they're thinking. I think they're thinking that time is sort of like miles or watts or joules or pounds. In that there's no such thing as a pound. There's a concept called weight. Weight exists. Pounds don't exist. Pounds are your arbitrary way of measuring weight. There is no unit of weight that is essentially or inherently or cosmically a pound. 1 kilo. No reason. In fact, it should be kilos. Pounds are stupid. Right? It's like 16 ounces in a pound. Like Americans. Anyway, how do you measure energy? Joules. Why? Why not? You have to measure it somehow. Miles. Same thing. There's a concept called distance. We have to measure the distance so that we can communicate with each other. So if I were to say, so Gideon and I, we've decided we're gonna have a mandate. So if we say, okay, I'll meet you at Starbucks, great. And then I went to Starbucks and he wasn't there. Well, yeah, because you didn't go at the same time. Oh, so we need to know when we're gonna meet there. There's a concept called time. Let's measure it. We will measure it in seconds and minutes and hours. You don't really think there's something called a second, do you? You don't really think that hours are real, do you? Well, because you could take the rotation of the sun and you can divide it equally among 24. It's not divisible by any other number. And what makes you think that the spinning of the world is how you should calculate a day? Totally arbitrary. That's not true. It's not totally arbitrary, but it's somewhat arbitrary. That's how people think of time. No. I don't think that's true at all. I think that's the opposite of true. The way that you could look at it instead will go something like this. You don't get to go around the theme park for 90 years. You get to live through 90 years. Understand? You don't get 90 years of time in the theme park. You live in 90 years. You live through the years. You live in time, not in space. You live in time. So yeah, but where am I? You need a place to be. Right. But the place where you are matters very little. Doesn't matter if you're in Chicago or China. The time that you're in matters very much. The time has a personality. There is Kedusha in space also. There is Kedusha in space, but that doesn't follow you, of course. You have to go to it. That has to be V'kanta ve'alisa el hamakom. When it comes to time, the time is going to be Kedusha in Moed, wherever you are. The Kedusha is always there. Why? Because you travel through time. So now let's take a look at the word. This is something that we've talked about before, but it bears chazara. The word for year in Hebrew is Shana. Shana means year. Tell me something. Does it also maybe mean to learn? Right? The Shanot is to learn in the Talmud. Yeah? Tell me, does it also mean to change? Does it also mean to repeat? Karisa lo shanisa? Shanisa lo shilashta? So you're telling me that in Hebrew the same word for year and change and repeat and learn? I mean, you think that whoever created Hebrew would be a tad more inventive. Come up with a few different words for those seemingly unrelated concepts. So obviously they're the same concept. How can it be both to change and to repeat? That's totally mutually exclusive. Well, because a year repeats. A year repeats. A year is by definition a cycle. That's what we're saying. We're saying is time is constant. Time is constant and you travel through it. You travel through the unit of the year. It repeats. It also changes, and it also means learn it. How could it repeat and change? It doesn't. It repeats. You change. When you go through the year, you change, even though you're going through the same process again. Because you're human! So you go through the same process as you went through before, but this time you learn something differently that you didn't see before, and therefore you change through the learning, through the repetition, through the change. That's why it's called Shana. So you travel through a year. If you travel through a year, then that means that all of the months have personalities. They're all different. Otherwise, why would you have 12 months? Like, what does that mean? Let's go tangential just for 1 second, okay? Like the Gemara says the thing, it sounds so silly. It's like, oh, why are there earthquakes? The Gemara says, why are there earthquakes? It was, oh, I don't know, cause the note sneeze, right? And I say, well, why are there blood moons? Because of Elias! You know, like you read this, and you're like, what are you, Jerry Falwell is his name? Billy Graham? Like some kind of pastor? You're blaming the tsunami on gay people in Thailand? Like, that's the Gemara. I'm pretty sure that earthquakes are tectonic plate shifts, but hey, what do I know? So what does the Gemara mean when it says earthquakes mipnei ma? Right? What it's saying is, yes, obviously, Tyrakin, the earthquakes happen when the plates shift. But that's not what the Gemara is asking. The Gemara is saying, why are there tectonic plates that shift? What is the purpose of God creating a world which will operate like this? It would have operated equally well without that. Oh, good. So it can teach you this or blah, 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 blah. By the way, this can answer rainbow questions in Parshas Noach too, so you can keep that in the back of your head or on the shelf or whatever. The point is, so each time has its own personality, and that's why there are 12 different months, which, correspond to Shvatim and, et cetera, et cetera. So if that's the case, I would argue Gemara is not telling you 4 answers as to what the Mishnah means when it says that Tishrei is a Rosh Hashanah L'Shanim. The Gemara is giving you 4 manifestations of one answer. There are 4 different ways that this idea pops up. They're all the same idea. Let's return to our previous question. We said it's not the Rosh Hashanah, it's the Chodesh HaShvi'i. Well, which is it? There's machlokus in the Gemara, but Tishrei nivra ha'olam or b'Nisan nivra ha'olam. This is an actual argument. There were 2 rabbis who sat around arguing whether the world was created in January or July. What the heck kind of argument is that? And how would you know if you're right? And why does it matter? What are you arguing about? What are you even talking about? They're not arguing. It's going to be a lot of fun. You understand that the first mitzvah that the Jews get as a nation is HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodeshim. You know why that's your first mitzvah? Because the day before, you know when your first Chodesh was? Tishrei. Because the world was created in Tishrei. Which is why there's a difference between Gentile kings and Jewish kings. Because you can't count the days the same because they have 2 different calendars. The reason why Rosh Hashanah is called Rosh Hashanah despite the fact that it's in the 7th month is because there is not one Jewish calendar. There are 2 Jewish calendars. There is a human Jewish calendar and there is a Yisrael Jewish calendar. And they operate on separate axes. The human calendar begins in Tishrei. The Jewish calendar begins in Nisan. When the Gemara says, oh yeah, and it's the first of the seasons, and it's the beginning of the world, what is that saying? It's telling you that the way that the world was created was through this midah as opposed to that midah. That's what it means when you say that the world is created in Tishrei versus the world being created in Nisan. Is it the personality of Tishrei, the personality of Nisan, the idea of Tishrei, the idea of Nisan, which we will speak about. So let's take a hop. Let's take a hop over to David HaMelech for a moment, and let's just read this because it's mind-blowingly beautiful. This kapitel, it's amazing. It's really amazing. So obviously he's very excited about how you should sing to God, right? The first couple of psukim are talking about the music and the dancing and how beautiful it's going to be, the singing together when you sing to God and blowing the shofar. And then he starts talking about Yehosef. Who's Yehosef? I don't know anybody named Yehosef. I know Yosef. Do you mean Yosef? Yosef doesn't have a hay in his name. Yosef is Yosef. Good old Joey. We know Joey. What do you mean Yehosef? Well, it turns out the Gemara talks about this more. And so the Gemara says, what does the pasuk mean when it says, Eidus Yehosef Samo B'Tzeisol Al Eretz Mitzrayim Svasli Yadati Yeshma? It's a very, very famous Rashi, as a matter of fact, in the Chumash that talks about this. Because it turns out when Yosef interpreted Paro's dreams, and Paro was so impressed by this guy, he's like, wow, I'm going to make this dude the king. He's going to be the second in command. And all of the cabinet was like, you can't put a slave boy on top of me. That didn't sound right. You cannot elevate a slave to a position that is thus exalted. And what does Paro say back to him? He says, this kid's not a slave. This kid's not a slave. He comes from royal stock. Like, there's just no way. Obviously, he was kidnapped or something, but he's clearly not a bum. Well, how do you know? It was a Gavriel V'lim Doshiv and Lashon. Because he spoke all 70 languages, right? And that's the whole Gemara that explains the Paro, Lo Kamishlei Ba'adei, in Lashon HaKodesh. Fine. Yosef learned the 70 languages. Okay. And that's Hosiv Lo Os Achas of the Hay, and that's why the end of the pasuk is, says, Eidus B'Yehosef Samo B'Tzeisol Al Eretz Mitzrayim, when he came out over all of Egypt on Rosh Hashanah, Sifas Lo Yadati Eshma. The languages that I did not know, I can now hear. It didn't even bother me. Honestly, for years it didn't even bother me. So I can't say that that I had a question about it. I read it and I moved on and I didn't notice it. But something occurred. And I think, how did Yosef learn 70 languages? Oh, Gavriel brought him a Rosetta Stone, and when he was sleeping, he plugged him into the Matrix. And come on, right? What does that mean? What does that mean that Yosef learned 70 languages from Gavriel? Where would Yosef learn 70 languages? I mean, it's so obvious, right? It's staring at you in the face. Where would Yosef learn 70 languages? Jail! He's in jail for a decade. With who? Everybody. He learned the Shivim Lashon in jail. Most probably. I would think that's how that actually played out. Now, so he comes out. So why is HaKadosh Baruch Hu talking to you about this? That's interesting. And he's coming out on Rosh Hashanah. And for some reason, David HaMelech is talking about this in the essential description of Rosh Hashanah. By the way, I know this is very technical. I apologize if I'm boring you. You can feel free to leave at any time. I wouldn't stay. So, Eidus b'Yosef Samo. Testimony in Yosef, he put it. What does that mean? It means the testimony, whatever the point is that David HaMelech is saying, the testimony for this point is to be seen in Yosef's exiting the jail on Rosh Hashanah. That's what he's saying. That's what Eidus b'Yosef Samo means. So the point that David HaMelech is making, the Eidus, that the point, that the testimony that his point is correct, is to be found in Yosef. Why? Hasirosi misevel shechmo. I took the back-breaking work off of his shoulders. Kapov midud ta'avarna. And I took away his palms from the sink. I mean, there are two different ways that Yosef was a slave. He was a slave in back-breaking labor, and he was a domestic slave, a butler. I took him out of both of those. Batsara karasav achal tzeka. You will call me from a place of tsar, and I'll save you. E'encha b'seiser ra'am, which is, it's very moving. Like you're hiding in a Nazi hole. And I will answer you from the depths, ra'am. I'm not just gonna spirit you out with the CIA. I'm gonna Entebbe you. I will answer you loudly, and I'll test you. If you call out from Tsar, I'll answer you, and I'll test you. Shema ami ve'aida bach. Listen, my nation, and I will testify again in you. Aida bach. What does Aida bach mean? All you have to do is listen. Doesn't mean obey. It means listen. Listen to what? Listen to what? Va'ida bach. To your own situation. If you want to know where you are in terms of your relationship with Hashem, you know what all you have to do is? Look at yourself. Va'ida bach. What's your situation? Are you experiencing brachos or klalos? If you're experiencing klalos, you know you're doing something wrong. Go back to the drawing board. Va'ida bach. Listen to me. Don't have any foreign gods. Anochi Hashem Elokecha hamalcha me'eretz Mitzrayim. I'm Hashem, your God, who took you out of Egypt. I love you. Harchev picha va'amalehu. Open your mouth and I'll stuff it. I'll stuff it. There's no limit to what I will do for you. V'lo shama amila koli. And my nation, they just don't listen to me. V'Yisrael lo avali. Yisrael doesn't want me. It's very telling. It's not that they don't listen to me because they don't like the theology. It's not that they don't listen to me because they don't believe in me. Lo avali. They don't want me. I'll send them off to do whatever they want. You know, like in last week's parsha when we said, Ki bishri rus libi elech. They'll go with their own plans. Lu ami shomea li, if only my nation would listen to me. Yisrael b'dracha yehelechu. Kimato ve'machnia. I mean, I'm this close. What's Hashem saying? Okay, so let's go back to the beginning. Eidus b'Yosef Samo. Where did Yosef gain all of the tools so that eventually he would be able to go out and be the premier of Egypt? In jail. In the jail. In the jail. That's where he got the tools to do this. That's interesting. That's interesting. Because it almost makes you think of the difference between Tishrei and Nisan. Tishrei nigalu or B'Nisan nigalu. Tishrei asidin ligoel, B'Nisan asidin ligoel. Tishrei nivra ha'olam, B'Nisan nivra ha'olam. What are they saying? They're saying that it's both, right? Obviously it's both, because anything that happens, if you have a big Yeshua, God took you out of Egypt, but where were the seeds that were planted in the ground that sprouted that Yeshua? Well, it began with Vayelach ish mibeis Levi, Vayikach es bas Levi. Like that's how the story begins. That's how the story begins. Yeah, but you don't smell Moshe until he's 80. Yeah, that's true. That's true. So what? That's Tishrei. Tishrei is the conception. Hayom Haras Olam. The manifestation is Nisan. So you say, well then, which one? You could do this by Purim. You could do this by any Yeshua. Any time a Yeshua happens, right? You say, well, when was the great salvation by Purim? When Achashverosh, lopped off Haman's head. That's the big Yeshua. Or maybe it's when he lopped off Vashti's head. Right? Because if he hadn't lopped off Vashti's head, there's no Esther. And if there's no Esther, there's no Yeshua. That's the difference between Tishrei and Nisan. They're not arguing. There are two different ways of looking at it. Oh, so now let's get fun. Why wouldn't the Torah tell you? Why wouldn't the Torah tell you that Tishrei is Yom Hadin? Because that would make you think that God decided to judge you on Tishrei. God didn't decide to judge you on Echad B'Tishrei. You're just entering another cycle. Judgment is automatic. God doesn't decide to judge you on Echad B'Tishrei. It's not an arbitrary date. He didn't decide that this will be the time of judgment. That's the start. And the nature of everything is that at its beginning, all of its potentials are mapped out to its end. Mereishis Hashana v'Arach Rishona. All of its potentials. So listen to what that means, because I think it's really, really cool, and I think it answers the Gemara later on on Yud Zayin of Beis. We said the judgment is a farce anyway, because you got a good din on Rosh Hashana, and then you become bad, and then you get messed up. Or you had a bad din on Rosh Hashana, you become good, and he gives it. So what's the point? All of those potentials were there from the beginning. When we say that your din is carved out, the way that we think about that is, this is what's going to happen to me. But that can't be. Because the Gemara is explicit that no, it can change. But that's not what it meant. That's never what it meant. Every single possible potential is inherent in the din in Rosh Hashanah. If you continue on this path, this is what's mapped out for you. And if you make a turn this way, this is where it will go. That's what it means. All the potentials are mapped out. And you choose which one of those potentials you're going to walk in. So it's interesting, because there's only one issue that I found in the Gemara that says that you're limited in, and that is mizonos. Why? Why not how tall you'll be, how many girlfriends you'll have, how many shiurim you'll hear? Why this mizonos thing? So it's interesting because the Gemara says, ki chok li Yisrael hu. What does chok mean? Hatrifeni lechem chuki. Ki chok me'es paro. It's how much money you can own. What does that mean? Why is the Gemara bringing another pasuk by Paro that he would give them chok to Paro to give X amount of food to each person? Because no matter how much money you make, you're limited by what the government will allow you to keep. So you have one cap. But once you have that cap, you can be very successful or very unsuccessful. That's what the Gemara is saying. And do you know what's unbelievable about this? If you continue reading the Gemara there, which I don't want to do because, again, I will bore you to tears, but if you continue reading the Gemara says, I don't understand why you said for a tzibur that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will change the din. And yet here you're saying that HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't change the din. He just makes the rain fall in the proper place. You know what the Gemara answers? Unbelievable. It's like, yeah, because it's Efshar. Gam b'hachi Efshar. Meaning what? I don't need to change the din. I don't need to paskin you more water. I don't need to paskin you more money. I'll paskin you a better life with less money. You don't need more money. You know what? I flipped the value of the dollar. So can you imagine if you would have gone to somebody 150 years ago and you say to him, you're going to make $20,000 this year. I'd be like, are you kidding me? That's Jeff Bezos. You know what $20,000 was 150 years ago? If you tell someone today, you're going to make $20,000 this year, he will cry. He will cry. It's below the poverty line. So you think it's really about the number of dollars that you're paskind? It's not. It's not. So the reason that the Torah doesn't tell you din is because it's not talking about din. The Torah is just telling you that it's the beginning of the year. It's Litikufa. Because B'Tishrei Nivra Ha'olam. Memela, there's din. Memela, since you're entering into the theme park, there is a definition of what you are and all of the possible potentials. God can't avoid seeing every possible potential. It's all there. Okay. So how does David describe this? That's why you don't need a makor for Rosh Hashanah for din. The din is memela. So how does David HaMelech choose to tell you this? Bakeseh. It's bakeseh. Why? Because the whole point of Rosh Hashanah is that it's covered. You can't see it. You don't understand it. It won't become apparent to you until later. Eidos b'Yahosef Samo. B'Tzeiso al Eretz Mitzrayim. You want to see? You want me to prove the testimony that I do this? Go look at Uncle Joe. Encha b'Seiser Ra'am. You think you have problems? You don't have any problems. You have no problems. Open your mouth. Harchev picha va'amalehu. What can I do? You're not interested. The whole point is that it's bakeseh. Listen to the other drush of the Gemara. The Gemara says, again, it's Sanhedrin, it's like, well, if you're ma'aber the shana, or you're ma'aber the chodesh, at night it doesn't work. Why? Ki chok l'Yisrael hu mishbel lo Yaakov, and then bakeseh liyom chagenu. Why would one thing relate to the other? It doesn't seem like they're connected in any way. Unless, of course, you tell me that the whole reason that it's din is because of cosmology. If the reason that it's the din is because that's when the world was created and that's the beginning of the cosmos, then of course there is a relationship between din and Ibor Shana and Kiddush HaChodesh. It's the same concept. Whenever you have a new thing, there's din. Ma mishpat b'yom, af Kiddush HaChodesh b'yom. It's not crazy. It's like dead on. It's what they've been talking about the whole time. Which is, I think, awesome. So, let's see if we've understood all of the loose ends. Let's see. So we asked, why doesn't the Torah say anything? Oh, I let that. This is so stupid of me. I'm sorry. Why are you blowing the horn? Right? What's with the horn? It's so weird. No, it's not. It's not weird at all. It's like the only thing the Torah tells you about Rosh Hashanah is you blow the horn. What does the horn mean? Yes, of course it means that to you. That's what you get from the horn. But what does the horn mean? You understand the difference? Not how does the horn affect you. That's what the Rambam was talking about. Afal pi shetikiyah shofar gezeres hakasavhu remez yeshbo. Uru yisheni mishay naschem b'nedam mitadam aschem elu hashochin esaemes be'avli asman, etc. But that's not why there's shofar. Rambam's saying that's what you learn from shofar. Why is there shofar? Because shofar is the bell. Shofar is the reset bell. It's literally what it is. You have it in school. Oh, you don't believe me? When do you blow the shofar? Yovel? What happens on Yovel? You blow the shofar, and everything reverts. It resets. Go back to the Mishnah. Be'echa b'Tishrei Rosh Hashanah, Hashanim, U'shmitin, Liovlos. Right? It's not crazy. And so the Gemara asks the question, like, I don't understand. How could you say it's Liovlos? How can you say it's Liovlos? Yovel's on Yom Kippur. That's 10 days after Rosh Hashanah. He says, well, no, it's Karev Chista. He says you start blowing the shofar on Yovel already by Rosh Hashanah, and you continue blowing it every day for 10 days. That's the whole point of the shofar. It has nothing to do with you. It's just God. It's just another box of time that you're about to step into. That's what it is. And it mandates the din. And the din does not determine how good your year will be, because you're still completely in control of that. Because Eini Hashem Elokecha is Tamid Eini Hashem Elokecha. Always. You can go this way, you can go that way. All the potentials are there. It's all there. So Rosh Hashanah is din almost by accident or by definition. Similar to why the Torah doesn't talk about Matan Torah by Shavuos. It's because you don't have Shavuos because of Matan Torah. You have Matan Torah then because of Shavuos. That's why. You don't have Din on Rosh Hashanah because that's when God decides to judge you. That's the beginning of the cycle because that's how the world was created. This is how the units of time work. It's just a reality. It's physics. And therefore, there's definition when you step into it. What are you? What are all of your potentials at this moment? Will they shift? Yes. Are they dynamic? Yes. Will God stick to the limits of what he did? Yes. Will it affect you the same? No. No. It won't. $20,000, 1850. $20,000, 2020. One's a good place to be. One's a bad place to be. That's why David HaMelech says, Vakese, and that's why the Gemara darshans by Ivra Hashana and Kiddush HaChodesh, and relates it to Din. That's why he talks about Yosef. That's what it means that Yosef learned 70 languages. That's why Yosef got out on Rosh Hashanah. Shema ami v'aida bach. If you're curious as to how you're doing in your life and what God thinks of you, well, the truth is, we should probably put a disclaimer on this because one of the klalos is vanochi haster panai mehem bayomahu, and it's not going to be so obvious to you. But what you should notice. Okay, why not? It's late anyway. Who cares? Comfy. So, dude, get comfy. I wasn't dissing. So we're reading in Devarim. By the way, if you want to see like little tiny ramazim, which are so cool, they're so cool. When he says, "Hariu le'Elohim uzenu." What does that mean? Right? Dude, you can't begin to imagine the precision of David's words. Can't. It's crazy. And you only see it when you start to see little things. You start to see the little things and you realize how big it is. Because you don't see the whole thing. I mean, unless you're, I don't know. Maybe there are some people that do, but I know I don't. What's Hariu Lelokim Uzenu? Well, it probably, I would guess, and in fact I would wager, go to Nehemiah, right? We spoke last year, if you remember, in Zach's house before Rosh Hashanah, and we spoke about Sefer Nehemiah. And what does it say over there? Sefer Nehemiah says, Echlu mashmanim shesu mantakim al teatsevu. Why? Why shouldn't you be sad? Ki chedvas Hashem hi ma'uzchem. The joy of God is your ma'oz. What's that referring to? Rosh Hashanah. It's B'chodesh HaShvi'i. Where it says, Hariu lelukim uzenu, I suspect strongly that that's what that's referring to. Just like I suspect that when it says, Yelchu b'shrirus libam, it's talking about this week's Parsha, which always falls out next to Rosh Hashanah. Which is what happens when you have this guy who says, Ki b'shrirus libi elech. I'll go however I want to. Yeah, you will, you can, but it's not a good idea. What will happen? Re'eh. It's all here. You have to choose. You can't just kind of like go through it on a default. It doesn't work that way. It never ever works that way. But anyway, if you listen to the words of the parsha just for a second. Moshe is standing on the banks of the Jordan River with a whole bunch of people 3,300 years ago. And this is his goodbye speech because he's going to die. And everybody knows that. So he says to them, look, you guys are going to screw up and God's going to massacre you. And he's going to be Holocaust and he's going to throw you everywhere. So he says to them, but don't worry. They'll come back. They'll come back. doesn't work that way. It never works that way. Listen to the words that he said. Whatever your opinions on the Torah happen to be, you be the biggest biblical critic in the world, that there's a redactor and there's a JPEG theory and it was written over 1,000 years. I don't care. You will have to admit to me that it's at least 2,300 years old. Like, it has to be. Because we found scrolls that are older than that. So, like, we know it's at least that old, and between you and I, we know how old it is. But, fine. You're entitled to your opinion. Even if it's that old. What does Moshe tell these people in this thing? I mean, listen to the words. It's crazy. It says, the Haya will be. Ki yavo alecha kol hadvarim ha'ele, habracha v'haklala asher nasati lefanecha. It will only be after both things happen to you. The bracha and the klala. When all of these things come, right? Ki yavo alecha kol hadvarim ha'ele, habracha v'haklala asher nasati lefanecha, v'hashefo sa'el levavecha, v'chol haglayim asher yidacha Adonai lecha shama. You're going to be everywhere. You're going to listen. He'll come back too. If you're spread out in the corners of the world, where are you going to go? Yemen? Think God can't get you from Yemen? He'll get you from Yemen. You think he can't get you from Addis Ababa? Go watch the Netflix special. He can get you from Addis Ababa. You think he can't get you from Russia? He got you from Russia. I mean, you read the psukim from 2019, and you're reading them backwards, you see. You're reading them backwards. Because Moshe, I see this! It's crazy! There was one man who saw what we've all seen then. Moshe. Moshe saw it. He's like, don't worry. I mean, are you kidding me? Really? Yeah, really. Like, totally really. Totally really. Totally really. Well, there's Tishrei, and there's Nisan. The Tishrei is the part that's mechuseh. You can't see it. You can't see how it's going to happen. That's why you can't do din at night. Can't do din when there's kisoy. It's not clear to you. In Nisan, it'll be clear to you. In Nisan, it'll be clear. So again, when the Gemara says, B'tishrei asidin ligael versus b'nisan asidin ligael, it's not an argument. We're talking about a question of stages. I hope you all have an amazing Rosh Hashana and also an amazing year. And if you have any points of clarification, I'll take them now.
This has been a Platforms podcast. Please share it with your friends. If you can think of one person to send it to, please take the time. It truly is the best way to help us out. If you have any comments or suggestions, please go and email platformspodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you.